Today on Tutorial Tuesday, I'm going to tell you why you might want a plain edge and why you might want a serrated edge. Let's talk about it. A plain edge is like this, where the edge is one straight line with one consistent apex all the way along the way, while an edge with serrations has these teeth or scallops along the way. These are far less common, but in my opinion, they're extremely underrated, and today I'm going to tell you why. There are a few reasons that most people opt for a plain edge. First of all is being push cuts, and these are a lot of cuts that are done with food or with packaging or kinds of other things, where you are just pushing down on the blade and letting the edge itself do the work. This gives you a much cleaner cut in many cases. So if I grab this cucumber, I give you a slice, and it gives me a very nice, clean slice. However, if I do the same thing with a serrated edge, it's a little more jagged. It's still plenty clean, it's still perfectly edible, but it isn't quite as presentable. It was delicious though. The next big reason is a lot of people find these a lot easier to sharpen, and I get it because this is one straight apex, whereas this has little teeth and scallops they have to dig in and sharpen. This is going to be a lot easier for you, so if you're somebody who likes supreme sharpness and is after the theoretical edge of infinite sharpness, then you're going to want a plain edge because it will be a lot more compatible with your whetstones, your fixed angle sharpeners, what have you. Next is if you like really precise and clean cuts. Maybe you're a hunter and skinning animals, maybe you're whittling wood, maybe you're a surgeon. All of those cuts will be a lot more clean if you just have one edge doing them. And the sharper you keep it, the cleaner it will be. Although it should be noted that these are micro-serrated at a certain level. The lower the polish you go to, the more of a serration will be visible, but if you polish way down, even then, it will still be micro-serrated at a very small level. And the last reason you might want a plain edge is if you really like hard steels. So like here we have CPM Rex 121. This stuff is crazy hard. It's hard enough to cut glass. But that hardness comes with the trade-off of toughness. And if you serrate one of these really hard steels, some of those tips on the serrations can get a little bit brittle and break off. So that's why people like plain edges, but let's jump in and talk about why serrations are something you should consider. The first reason is if you make pull cuts. If you're doing something that's a lot of slicing and dragging, like maybe you're cutting through a lot of cardboard or rope or whatever, these are gonna glide right through. And it might not be a super clean cut, but it'll get through real quick and real easy. And one reason for that is these tips have a lot more cutting power on them because of the way edges work. You can check out our edge geometry video to learn more, but in short, as an edge gets thin, it maximizes the pressure of you pushing on it until the pressure is so much that the material can't bear it and it tears. This not only maximizes along an edge, but it rotates and gets you along a point as well. And that gives you a lot of cutting power. And that's why the next reason, self-defense people love some serrations because they cut hard and they cut deep. And especially because of that ability to chew through fibrous material, because it has literal teeth, it's really great at biting deep, especially through clothing. Another reason you might want a serrated edge is edge retention. For reasons we'll discuss, these have the best edge retention of any edge type. The reason is, as we mentioned earlier, that pressure is maximized along all of these points. So even if the apex isn't perfectly sharp, it has these points of extra pressure to really up that cutting power. And that's why steakhouses love to use serrated knives, because when people are grinding those edges against plates all day, it'll still remain sharp enough to cut a steak. However, if you're like most knife nerds and know that you're not supposed to cut against plates with a sharp edge, just pull out whatever knife is in your pocket. That way you have a knife that won't pre-chew your steak for you cutting your meat. Spyderco makes the most serrated knives of any company I'm aware of, and I was asking Eric Glesser, who helped design this knife, there's his logo right there, which Spyderco knife had the greatest edge retention, and I was thinking he was going to say something with CPM Rex 121. But he told me it is Humble H2 stainless steel with the serrations, because it's so tough that the serrations never chip or break off, and it will stay sharp darn near forever. That's why Lynn Thompson of Cold Steel says, one more cut no matter what when it comes to serrations, and that's why he carries serrated knives in his pocket every single day. The next reason is if you need your knife to cut fast. Sometimes the plain edges will cut really clean and it'll take their time to do it, but if you need to get through something now, serrated edges are probably the way. And if you're a rescue worker, if you work for the Coast Guard or you're a lifeguard or something, serrations are going to give that to you, and that's why you'll see them on a lot of rescue knives. To prove this, I've brought this rope. This rope is really hard to cut. I'm going to try to cut it with both the plain edge and the serrations, and you're going to see what happens. See, it's not clean, but sure chews it up real nice. And the last reason you should consider a serrated knife is if you ever cut bread, especially bread that is meant to be toasted. And I will demonstrate that with these bagels. So a plain edge will give you a very clean cut through your bagel. Not too many crumbs. Yeah, see, nice and clean, which looks nice and is quite presentable. However, if you want to bring the toaster in, you're going to want to use serrations for this reason. The serrated bagel is still plenty clean. However, these little scruffs that got pulled up by the serrations are gonna brown and crisp up really nice in the toaster. Well, this one's kind of just gonna dry out and warm up and brown generally. This will give you a bit more of a textural contrast and it'll be way more delicious. Let's toast some bagels. So whether or not you pick a knife with serrations is ultimately a personal choice. I tend to prefer plain edges because they work better for my personal life, but there's a lot of people out there, people I deeply respect, and people who know a lot more about knives than I do, who prefer serrations. Now there are some people out there who like the partial serrations, a knife that has serrations and plain edge. Some say this is the best of both worlds, others say it's the worst of both worlds. These are both totally valid opinions, and it's totally up to you what your edge type is. But whatever you choose, don't let anybody on the internet yuck your yum. All of these knives are great, and I invite you to carry one every single day. We'll catch you on the next one.